Thank you. Thank you very much. About halfway through Speaker Perez's speech, Ricardo said, "Oh no, I think there's going to be a test." I think it may be in Latin actually, but thank you, John. Thank you for your introduction, and thank you for all that you've done for me. There are a lot of folks who I could say, if it wasn't for so and so, I wouldn't be speaker. If it wasn't for John, I wouldn't be in the assembly, and I wouldn't be married. So thank you, John. I also want to thank our MC, the pride of the Southeast, Ricardo Lara. His district keeps getting bigger and bigger. And he goes all the way down to Long Beach, but we know he's still Bell Gardens Ricardo. We know that. Thank you, Ricardo. Hilda Solis is someone who I've known since, as she said, since she was on the Rio Hondo Community College Board. I knew her when she was in the Assembly. I knew her when she was in the State Senate. I knew her when she was a member of Congress. I knew her when she was the Secretary of Labor, and now I'm proud to work beside her as she serves as a member of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors. Thank you, Hilda. Again, Mayor Morales, I have known you for way too long. I got way too many Jorge Morales stories. I could unelect both of us. But I have known Jorge for a very long time, a great friend. When you talk about leadership in the Southeast, we're starting to change things. We're starting to change our leadership patterns. It's because of folks like Jorge that are making that possible. So thank you, brother. There are certain people in your life who you admire and you think you're never going to meet them. I wrote a doctoral dissertation in 2000, and everybody talked about the fact that I studied political theory, but my doctoral dissertation dealt with the relationship between political theory and architectural theory in the last quarter of the 20th century. And I wrote 3 chapters on Frank Gehry. And when I met Frank in, I believe it was October or November, I told him that. I said, I wrote 3 chapters of my dissertation on you. And he said, I never read it. And no one has ever read it. That's why it's a doctoral dissertation. So thank you, Frank. Thanks for all you've done for Los Angeles, and thanks for all that you've done for the river. There's a couple of other people I want to acknowledge. I want to acknowledge my family who are here, not only my wife, Annie. My family's over here. I told the story earlier about no one having read my doctoral dissertation. The thing is that I wrote my dissertation in 2000. It was my proudest accomplishment. I put it on my parents' coffee table in the living room, thinking, oh, they'll want to crack it open and read it someday. And then every time I'd go over the house, there'd be copies of Better Homes and Gardens on top of it, and Vanity Fair, and then I would, every time I'd come in, I'd casually take my dissertation, I'd put it on top of the magazines and People and stuff. And then after about 3 years, my mom said, I'm going to start throwing out all these magazines. And she's going through all this stuff, and she picked up my dissertation. She said, we don't know what this is. It's been here for years. So my family is here. They taught me humility, and they continue to do so every day. Thank you. I know that my colleagues were introduced, Adrien and Jimmy and Ed and Chris and Reggie, as well as Brian. I was going to say Democrats and Republicans alike, but there's only one Republican, so it's Democrats and Republican alike. But our good friend, our colleague Patty Lopez is here as well. And someday, you probably arrived late because of the traffic. Someday you'll be able to take a boat from your district in the San Fernando Valley right to this spot and get off here. So thank you, Patty. It was over 10,000 years ago that this river behind us was celebrated by the Chumash and Tongva for its abundance of water, vegetation, and wildlife. It was nearly 250 years ago that the still vibrant river was officially named by the explorer Portola, and it was less than 100 years ago that it was channeled after devastating floods. Though the river's history has been fluid and sometimes tumultuous, today we celebrate its future, the bright future of the Los Angeles River. A future where all 51 miles are again a resource and a source of pride for the people of Los Angeles County, including those right here in the Southeast communities. To that end, this time last year, I was busy working on my bill, AB 530, to create a working group and a master plan specific to the southeast portion of the river, a plan that reflects our multi-layered identity. You've heard me share my vision for the river. It's one that emulates the Emerald Necklace in the San Gabriel Valley, which is a 17-mile loop of attractive, multi-benefit parks and greenways that connect 10 cities and nearly 500,000 residents. The reality that today is the Emerald Necklace is one that Hilda Solis, more than anyone else, was responsible for bringing to fruition. So we know that we have not only a passionate partner in transforming the Los Angeles River, but also a partner who's experienced at these types of projects. Throughout the time that I was working on AB 530, I was frequently asked to share my vision for the Los Angeles River. My answer was always the same. It's not about my vision, it's about our vision. It's about the vision of our community and about what we collectively want the river to be. To that end, it is essential that all our communities have a place at the table where decisions are being made about the river. A table that includes working groups and stakeholders from Southeast communities, Supervisor Solis, Mayor Garcetti, River LA, Friends of the Los Angeles River, and Frank Gehry. When I see us gather at the water on a gorgeous day like today and reflect on the contributors involved, I know this river can become a treasure once again. In working to protect that hope and this river has been the proudest and most exciting chapter of my time in the Assembly. Another tremendous honor, of course, occurred last month when I was sworn in as the 70th Speaker of the California Assembly. It was a special day with Annie by my side and with my parents and family on hand. I was also proud that Mayor Morales flew up to Sacramento for the ceremony, as did John Perez, and that Senate Pro Tem De Leon and John Chung were there, sitting beside me. Some of my colleagues from the Assembly who were there that day are also with us today, and I very much appreciate their presence. When I was sworn in, I said I hoped the Assembly would focus on three things: poverty, oversight, and participation. Poverty. As you know, prior to politics, I spent a career working in early childhood education. So it breaks my heart to know that there are 2.5 million children in this state, 2.5 million children in this state who are living in poverty. And they are living in poverty despite the fact that great community-based organizations are doing all the work that they're doing. The problem of poverty is especially profound here in the 63rd Assembly District. I represent 9 cities. 8 of the 9 cities that I represent have poverty rates of over 20%. It's my goal and our shared responsibility to lift these families out of poverty. Creating a state earned income tax credit was one good tool, and we created that tool last year. But a mere 48 hours ago, we utilized a different tool. On Thursday, we approved a bill that will ensure a minimum wage of $15 for all working Californians. And instrumental to that effort was the work of our Senate Pro Tem leader, Kevin De Leon. He was waiting in the car for that very moment. As I said in my floor statement on Thursday, no one should work full-time and live in poverty. No one should work full-time and struggle to keep a roof over their heads. No one should work full-time and not be able to put food on their table. So I'm proud that California is the first state in the nation to pass a $15 minimum wage, and I will be there along with Kevin and our governor when Governor Brown signs that bill on Monday. Oversight. In our communities, right here in the Southeast, right here in our own backyards, we know what happens when government officials believe that no one is paying attention. It's my job as your assembly member, and indeed our jobs as citizens, to ensure that we are paying attention all the time. In the Assembly and the Senate, we have to make sure that state agencies and programs are working the way the legislature intended and are really doing the job for the people. Making sure the state does its job is most important, especially in terms of making sure that Exide cleans up its mess. This is our first priority. Participation. Days like today in a beautiful park in our communities remind us that participation and civic engagement are as important on a daily basis as they are on Election Day. Civic engagement is really about building community as much as it's about anything. Events such as today and our efforts along the Los Angeles River are a start toward building community engagement and civic participation. But there is so much more that we can do, and indeed that we need to do. We need to explore how we can get more Californians involved, especially in communities where the needs are great, but the engagement is not. I also said at my swearing in that in order to focus on big goals, I would not be carrying legislation this year, but I will continue to fight for my district and for what I believe in, and that includes restoring this river to its former splendor. When you leave the park today, and if you go down Garfield near the 105, you'll pass by my district office. You'll notice that we didn't change the sign on the office out in front. I was elected by the constituents of the 63rd Assembly District to serve as your assembly member. I'm an assembly member when I'm in the district. I'm your assembly member in the district. When I'm in Sacramento, I'm the speaker. But my first priority is here to the constituents of this district. In closing, when I was listening to Mr. Gary talk, I was thinking about the fact that I think I've always been interested in rivers. I remember being a kid, and we had a bunch of National Geographics in our garage, and I'd read about the Nile or the Amazon and the Mississippi, and I'd read about how these great rivers provided life to communities and how they linked different towns and different communities together. And I grew up believing that I lived in a city without a great river. I probably at one point believed that I lived in a city that didn't have a river at all. And I used to always wonder what it was that tied us together in Los Angeles. I used to always wonder what that linking thing was, that in other cities, in London was the Thames and in China was the Yangtze. I always wondered what that linking element was. When I first got my driver's license, I would drive up Sunset Boulevard from downtown to the beach. I would drive from Santa Monica downtown on Wilshire Boulevard. I'd drive down Figueroa. And I think I used to think that maybe our great linking mechanism, maybe our great river was some of the boulevards that we have in the city. As we started to build out our light rail system and our subway system in this city, I started to think that maybe these mass transit efforts, maybe those were our great rivers. Maybe those are the things that link us to one another and that link communities to one another. But over the course of the past 3 years, as we've begun working on this project, I've begun to think that perhaps we do live in a city that has a great river. Maybe we do live in a city in which a river can link all of us to one another. But it's a little bit different for us, because for us, it's about making sure that we bring that river to life, and that we are in charge of making sure that the great river behind us, that it serves the purpose that great rivers throughout the world serve, which is to link us to one another and to make us whole.